Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribers, and remember, at 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Jack Reynolds had never expected his journey through the star systems to land him in such an unforeseen predicament. As a human explorer, the vast reaches of the universe beckoned with both their mysteries and their perils. But the bustling alien spaceport on Zorac Prime was supposed to be a brief layover, not a trap. The day had started ordinarily enough, with Jack navigating through throngs of diverse alien species, each busy with their transactions. Zorac Prime was a hub for traders, a melting pot where beings from different corners of the galaxy exchanged goods, stories, and occasionally heated arguments. Jack, with his keen interest in alien cultures, had been engrossed in examining local artifacts when a simple misunderstanding spiraled out of control. He had been examining a peculiar device, its surface shimmering with colors that changed when viewed from different angles. Fascinated, Jack hadn't noticed the shopkeeper, a Kravokian with skin that resembled the hardened bark of ancient earth trees, eyeing him suspiciously. When the device accidentally slipped from his fingers, landing with a soft thud on the cushioned counter, the shopkeeper erupted in a flurry of guttural shouts, attracting the attention of nearby patrons and, unfortunately, the local security forces. Before Jack could explain, two towering figures clad in the standard armor of the Zorac security detail approached him. Their imposing forms were silhouetted against the neon lights of the market stalls, and their eyes, 3 per face, gleamed with a mix of curiosity and stern duty. They spoke in a rapid clicking language, gesturing first at the shopkeeper, then at Jack, their tone leaving little room for negotiation. Despite his protests and attempts to clarify the situation, the language barrier proved insurmountable. His translator device, usually reliable, fumbled with the dialects swarming around him, rendering his explanations ineffective. Jack felt a firm grip on his arm as he was led away, the crowd parting silently to watch the human who had unwittingly caused a scene. The ride to the Intergalactic Detention Center was a blur. Jack sat in the back of a hovering patrol unit, the cityscape of Zorac Prime speeding by in a whirl of colors and lights. He tried to piece together his rapid descent into misfortune, his thoughts racing as the reality of his situation set in. The detention center, a notorious facility known to house some of the galaxy's most dangerous criminals, was now his unwanted destination. Upon arrival, the cold, sterile environment of the jail greeted him. The facility was a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of the spaceport. Here, everything was angular and oppressive, designed to subdue and control. As the security officers processed his capture, Jack was stripped of his belongings, fitted with a tracking device, and pushed through a series of barred doors that clanged shut with an air of finality. His cell was a small, cube-like space with walls that hummed with a low electric buzz, likely to deter any thoughts of tampering. As the door slid shut, locking him in solitude, Jack slumped against the cool metal wall. He was alone, far from home, and caught in the gears of a system that didn't understand him. But even in that moment of despair, a spark of resolve ignited within him. Jack wasn't one to give up easily, and he knew somehow he'd need to find a way to navigate this alien world, its rules and its inhabitants, if he was to ever find his way back to the stars. Jack's first day in the Intergalactic Detention Center was marked by the harsh reality of galactic incarceration. The other inmates quickly took notice of the new arrival. A human, an uncommon sight in such a facility renowned for detaining some of the most fearsome species across the stars. Jack, slightly under the average height of his fellow inmates, found himself the target of their intrigue and, more worryingly, their amusement. As he was escorted to the communal eating area for his first meal, whispers and stares followed him. The large, cavernous room echoed with the clatter of utensils and the low murmur of dozens of alien languages. The air was thick with the smell of unfamiliar spices and the metallic tang of the prison's recycled air. Sitting alone at a table, Jack tried to focus on his meal, a slab of nutrient-dense food that was both tasteless and rubbery. However, eating proved difficult as several larger, more intimidating inmates approached him. One particularly large creature, covered in scales that shimmered like oil in sunlight, leaned over Jack, Its deep voice rumbled through a mouth full of sharp teeth as it demanded, in broken human standard, "What little human doing in big creature's place?" The others around it chuckled, a low, menacing sound. Before Jack could reply, his meal was snatched away, the thief retreating back to a group adorned with similar scale patterns, leaving Jack hungry and humiliated. This initial encounter set the tone for the rest of the day. During what seemed to be recreational time, Jack attempted to keep to himself, observing the dynamics of the prison yard from a corner. It didn't take long for a ball, used in some sort of rough team sport, to slam into his back, sending him sprawling to the ground. The laughter that followed was loud and pointed. As he pushed himself up, the sneering face of a Zoracian, a species known for their brute strength, loomed over him. "Watch where you exist, little human," it barked, before shoving Jack aside and retrieving the ball. Feeling the weight of many eyes upon him, Jack realized that weakness, real or perceived, was an open invitation for further bullying in this place. Each jest, each shove, each theft of his belongings chipped away at his resolve. Yet, each incident also stoked a growing determination within him. He was an explorer, a survivor of countless encounters on hostile planets, and he wasn't about to let this be his downfall. As the lights dimmed to signal the end of the day and he was herded back to his cell, Jack lay on the thin mattress provided, staring at the dimly lit ceiling. His mind raced through his options. There was no doubt that to survive in this place, he needed to establish some sort of respect, or at the very least, deterrence. Thoughts of his prior adventures, where quick thinking had saved his skin more than once, began to morph into a plan. If physical might was the language of this jail, then perhaps it was time for Jack to speak it, in his own unique human way. Tomorrow, he decided, would be different. Tomorrow, they would see what a human could really do when pushed to the edge. The following day, Jack woke up with a resolve hardened by the previous day's challenges. As he was led to the communal area for breakfast, he sensed the palpable shift in the atmosphere as he walked in. Today, he carried himself differently. Eyes sharp, shoulders squared. He was ready to challenge the expectations of those who saw him only as an easy target. The bullying began anew almost immediately, but this time Jack was prepared. As he sat down with his breakfast tray, the same large creature from the day before approached him, its gang in tow, clearly intent on repeating their theft. However, this time, Jack was quicker. As the creature reached out to grab his food, Jack pulled the tray just out of reach, causing the would-be thief to stumble forward ungracefully. Surprised murmurs rippled through the room. "Not today," Jack said firmly, his voice louder than he felt. His boldness attracted more attention, and a hush fell over the nearby tables. The creature straightened, scales flushing a darker shade, a sign of anger in its species. "You have guts, human!" it growled, now drawing itself up to its full height, towering over Jack. It was clear from its stance and the gathering crowd that this was turning into a spectacle, one that would not end with mere words. "Want to prove it?" the creature challenged, gesturing to what served as the recreation area, a clear space often used for settling disputes through physical contests. Jack hesitated for a moment, aware of the many eyes watching, then nodded. He understood that standing up for himself might earn him some respect, or at least some semblance of peace. The crowd formed a circle around Jack and his challenger in the recreation area. The rules were simple and brutal. The fight would last until one party yielded or was unable to continue. As the challenger, the scaled creature made the first move, its massive arm swinging towards Jack with alarming speed. Jack ducked, dodging the blow, and countered with a quick jab to the creature's midsection. The impact was less effective than he hoped, but it showed his willingness to fight back. The bout continued, with Jack relying on his agility to evade the powerful though predictable attacks of his opponent. He managed to land several more strikes, each earning a mix of cheers and jeers from the onlookers. As the fight wore on, Jack's opponent began to tire, its movements growing sluggish. Seizing the opportunity, Jack executed a maneuver he'd learned during his time on a martial arts-focused planet, using his opponent's weight against it to bring it down to the ground with a thud that echoed off the walls. The crowd went silent as the creature stayed down, winded and beaten. Jack stood over it, breathing heavily, his fists still raised in defense. Slowly, the onlookers began to clap, a staccato sound that grew in intensity until it filled the room. As Jack walked back to his table, his breakfast untouched but his place in the pecking order redefined, he could feel the shift in how he was perceived. No longer just a human, but a competitor, a fighter, a survivor. This fight wouldn't end all his problems, but it was a clear statement. Jack was not going to be bullied without consequence. His actions had set a new tone for his time in this galactic jail, one that might just make his stay here a bit more bearable, or at least as bearable as it could be under the circumstances. Following his unexpected victory in the makeshift arena of the prison's recreation area, Jack's status among the inmates began to shift. News of the human who took down a larger, stronger alien spread like wildfire, transforming Jack from an object of derision to one of intrigue and respect. While this did not entirely cease the bullying, it significantly lessened the frequency and severity of the incidents. Some inmates, curious about this resilient human, even began to approach him during meals and recreational times, tentatively offering nods of respect or gruff words of acknowledgement. Jack used this newfound respect cautiously, aware that his position was precarious. He began to observe the prison's social dynamics more closely, noting who wielded power and how alliances formed among different species. It was during these observations that he noticed a particular group that stayed distant from the usual skirmishes and power plays. This group, comprising several alien species known for their intelligence and technical skills, seemed to operate under a different set of rules, avoiding conflicts and exchanging favors in the form of information or services. Intrigued and seeing a potential ally in their leader, a cerebral creature named Ural, Jack decided to approach them. Ural, whose species was renowned for their advanced mental capabilities, was initially skeptical of Jack's interest. However, Jack's demonstration of wit and resilience in the arena had caught Ural's attention, paving the way for cautious dialogue. During one of their discreet meetings in the library, a place seldom frequented by the more brawny inmates, Ural shared insights about the prison's inner workings. The library, filled with data tablets and information screens, became their regular meeting spot. Here, amid the hum of data streams, Ural revealed the existence of a network of corruption involving some of the prison guards and a high-ranking warden. This corruption was not just limited to smuggling contraband, but included manipulating inmate sentences and orchestrating dangerous inmate-on-inmate confrontations for entertainment and profit. Armed with this knowledge, Jack saw an opportunity not just for gaining more standing, but possibly for leveraging this situation toward his own ends, clearing his name and securing his release. He began to formulate a plan, one that required careful coordination and the cooperation of Ural's group. Together, they started to gather evidence, using hidden recording devices and intercepted communications to document the corrupt activities. Jack also worked on building his physical strength and learning more about the different technologies and systems within the prison, knowledge that might prove crucial for any future endeavors. His days were split between gathering intelligence, participating in physical training sessions, and strengthening his alliances through favors and mutual aid. As weeks turned into months, Jack's dual approach of blending in through physical prowess and standing out through strategic alliances started to reshape his daily life in the detention center. He was no longer just surviving. He was planning, preparing for an eventual confrontation that would either cement his place in the prison hierarchy or provide him a chance at freedom. His careful balance of respect and influence had turned him into a key player in the complex socio-political landscape of the Intergalactic Detention Center, setting the stage for the unfolding events that would challenge the very foundation of the prison's corrupt system. As Jack's influence within the prison grew, so too did his network of alliances. The once solitary human had become a key figure in an intricate web of inmates, each bound by a mutual desire for justice or revenge against the prison's corrupt administration. The notorious gang leader, a reptilian creature known as Zorac, recognized the shifting dynamics and saw Jack as a potential threat to his own dominion within the prison walls. Zorac, who had maintained control through brute force and intimidation, decided it was time to confront Jack directly. He approached Jack one evening in the communal area, his gang flanking him. their eyes glinting malevolently under the harsh artificial lights. "Human," Therex hissed, his voice a threatening whisper. "You're upsetting the balance. You think you can change how things work around here?" Jack, aware of the many eyes now watching this confrontation, stood his ground. "Not trying to change anything except what's fair. There's a difference between running things and running them into the ground." A murmur rippled through the gathered inmates. Tharex's reputation was built on fear, and openly challenging him could either be seen as brave or suicidal. But Jack's previous display of combat prowess and his growing reputation as a leader lent weight to his words. Realizing a physical altercation would not work this time, Jack had proven too popular and too skilled. Therex shifted tactics. "Maybe you and I can come to an understanding," he proposed, the words oily. "Help me out, and I'll make sure you're comfortable during your stay." Jack, however, was playing a longer game. "Thanks, but I've got different plans, and they don't include helping you squeeze more out of the guys here." As Therex's eyes narrowed, Jack continued, "Why don't we work on making things better for everyone here, not just the ones who can bully their way to the top?" Therex scoffed, turning to leave, but not before throwing a warning over his shoulder. "This isn't over, human. You're in deep waters trying to swim with sharks." With Therex's challenge diffused for the moment, Jack turned back to his inner circle, his mind racing. It was clear that any move they made against the prison's corruption would need to be soon, before Therex decided to escalate things. Together with Ural and other trusted allies, Jack spent the next few weeks finalizing their plan. They would expose the corruption not only within the prison, but also broadcast it to the Galactic Council, hoping to spark an investigation that could not be ignored. They had managed to secure enough evidence and were now working on a way to smuggle it out of the prison. Their opportunity came during an arranged event, a so-called display of loyalty to the prison officials, where inmates showcased fights and other competencies. Using this event as a cover, they planned to hijack the prison's communication system. On the day of the event, tension hung thick in the air. Jack and his allies moved among the other inmates, their nerves hidden beneath determined exteriors. As the fights began, drawing the attention of the guards and the warden, Jack and a small team slipped away to the communication room. With Ural's technical guidance, they quickly bypassed the security protocols. Jack connected the device containing their compiled evidence to the communication system. As he initiated the upload, the first images of their proof began broadcasting across the prison's screens, momentarily stunning the audience into silence. Jack's voice followed, calm and clear, explaining the corruption and their demands for an external review. The reaction was immediate and chaotic. Inmates cheered, guards rushed to regain control, and the warden, realizing what was happening, called for backup. But it was too late. The message was out, and the eyes of the galaxy were now firmly on the Intergalactic Detention Center. In the aftermath of the broadcast, the atmosphere inside the Intergalactic Detention Center transformed entirely. The inmates, fueled by the revelations of corruption and mismanagement, rallied around Jack and his coalition, viewing them not just as leaders, but as beacons of hope for change and justice. The guards, caught between their duties and the undeniable evidence of their superiors' misconduct, were unsure of how to respond, creating a temporary but shaky standoff within the prison walls. Outside the detention center, the impact of the broadcast was even more profound. News channels across the galaxy picked up the story, broadcasting the damning evidence Jack and his team had collected to every corner of civilized space. The Galactic Council, pressured by public opinion and the clear visual proof of wrongdoing, was forced to act. They dispatched a special investigative team to the prison, promising transparency and swift action to address the grievances aired. Back in the prison, amidst this chaotic turn of events, Jack focused on fortifying his position and ensuring the safety of his fellow inmates from any retaliatory actions by the corrupt prison staff. Therex and his gang, seeing the tide turning, decided to throw their support behind Jack, realizing that aligning with the winning side was in their best interest. This uneasy alliance further solidified Jack's influence over the inmate population. When the investigative team arrived, they were met with a mix of skepticism and cautious optimism. Jack, appointed by his peers as a spokesperson, led the delegation through the facility, providing first-hand accounts and showing physical evidence of the corrupt practices. The investigators were thorough, documenting everything and conducting interviews with both staff and inmates. Parallel to the ongoing investigation, Jack and Ural worked on securing individual pardons or sentence reassessments for those unjustly punished or implicated in the corrupt schemes of the warden and his allies. They leveraged the now undeniable public support, pushing for fair treatment and justice. The investigation culminated in a public hearing where the evidence gathered by Jack's team was presented alongside the findings of the Galactic Council's investigators. The warden and several key members of his administration were found guilty of multiple charges, including abuse of power, embezzlement, and the orchestration of inmate violence. They were taken into custody, and interim management was installed in the prison, tasked with overhauling the system and implementing reforms to prevent future abuses. As for Jack, his role in uncovering the corruption and leading the charge for justice did not go unnoticed. His wrongful imprisonment was publicly acknowledged, and he was fully exonerated. The Galactic Council, in recognition of his efforts and as a gesture of goodwill, offered him a position as a consultant on prison reform, an opportunity to use his experience to enact positive changes throughout the galactic penal system. However, Jack, ever the explorer, declined the position, choosing instead to return to his life of adventure among the stars. His experiences in the detention center had changed him, imbuing him with a deeper sense of purpose and a renewed commitment to fighting injustice wherever it might be found in the galaxy. With heartfelt goodbyes and promises to keep in touch, Jack left the Intergalactic Detention Center behind, a free man once more. He boarded his ship, setting his coordinates for the next uncharted system, ready to face whatever new challenges awaited him in the vast, star-studded expanse of space, carrying with him the enduring respect and gratitude of those he had helped. As Jack's ship pulled away from the Intergalactic Detention Center, the sprawling complex shrinking into a speck against the vast backdrop of stars, he couldn't help but reflect on the whirlwind of events that had led him to this moment. The prison, once a place of despair and corruption, was now on a path toward reform, and Jack had been the catalyst. The thought brought a mix of pride and exhaustion, emotions that he hadn't fully processed amidst the chaos. Now, as he set his coordinates for the distant and unexplored edges of the galaxy, Jack felt a sense of freedom and anticipation that had been foreign to him during his incarceration. The universe was once again a vast place of potential, filled with mysteries waiting to be uncovered and adventures to be had. But his time in the detention center had left indelible marks. He had witnessed the depths of corruption and the resilience of those fighting against it. These experiences had reshaped his worldview, infusing his explorations with a new purpose. No longer was it just about discovering new worlds and ancient artifacts. It was also about ensuring justice and fairness in the vast expanse of the galaxy. As he traveled through the stars, Jack made it a point to share his story. Whether docking at bustling spaceports or remote outposts, he spoke of the corruption he had helped to unearth and the collective effort needed to combat such injustices. His story spread through the space lanes, inspiring others and, occasionally, prompting them to share their own tales of struggle and resistance. Jack also kept in contact with Ural and the other inmates who had stood by his side. They updated him on the reforms taking place in the detention center, the trials of the corrupt officials, and the slow but steady improvements in the living conditions of the inmates. Some of the inmates who had been released, thanks to the reevaluation of their cases, even joined him on short legs of his journey, eager to see the universe beyond the prison walls. In his travels, Jack encountered new civilizations and helped mediate disputes, his reputation as a fair negotiator growing with each success. His unique perspective, forged in the fires of his imprisonment and fight for justice, allowed him to navigate complex interstellar politics and cultural misunderstandings with empathy and effectiveness. As he approached a particularly mysterious nebula on the fringe of the explored universe, Jack felt a thrill of excitement. This nebula, rumored to contain lost technology from a long-extinct civilization, represented the unknown, full of potential for discovery and danger. It was a reminder of why he had become an explorer in the first place. Jack's ship, equipped with the latest in astronavigation and defensive technology, carefully maneuvered into the colorful mists of the nebula. Sensors pinged softly as they detected unusual energy patterns and ancient debris. With each passing moment, Jack's excitement grew. Here, in the silent beauty of swirling cosmic gases, he was a pioneer on the edge of discovery, a far cry from the confines of a prison cell. As Jack delved deeper into the mysteries of the nebula, he knew that no matter what he found, the journey itself was the true reward. The freedom to explore, to uncover truths, and to fight for justice across the galaxy was his path now, a path he embraced fully with all the resilience and wisdom he had gained. His adventures, once purely for the thrill, now carried a deeper significance, a testament to the power of courage, change, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Jack's exploration of the nebula revealed more than just the remnants of an ancient civilization. It unearthed a beacon, a device designed to emit a signal upon detecting certain technological signatures. Curiosity piqued, Jack delved deeper into the mysteries of the nebula, uncovering pieces of technology that blended seamlessly with natural formations, suggesting an advanced civilization that had once harmonized its technology with the universe itself. As he pieced together the artifacts and decoded the data from the beacon, Jack discovered it was a distress signal, long dormant but reactivated by his presence. The technology, incredibly advanced yet intuitive, hinted at a civilization that had not merely vanished, but had ascended to a different plane of existence, leaving behind echoes of their knowledge for someone like him to find. Driven by a blend of explorer's zeal and a newfound sense of guardianship over such ancient wisdom, Jack resolved to protect these relics. He knew such technology could revolutionize life across the galaxy, but in the wrong hands, it could also lead to devastation. His experiences in the detention center had taught him the importance of stewardship, of knowledge, power, and history. As he prepared to leave the nebula, Jack established a hidden sanctuary within its bounds, a safeguarded archive for all he had found. He left behind a series of cryptic clues and safeguards, designed to ensure that only those with the right intentions and sufficient wisdom could access the secrets. This task, self-imposed, felt like a continuation of his journey towards ensuring justice and protection throughout the galaxy. Upon returning to civilization, Jack shared tales of his findings, albeit in veiled terms to protect the exact nature and location of the nebula. His stories inspired awe and respect, further solidifying his reputation not just as an explorer, but as a protector of the galactic heritage. Months passed, and Jack continued his travels, occasionally crossing paths with the Galactic Council's representatives, whom he assisted with advice and mediation in emerging conflicts. His role as an informal advisor was embraced by many, his experiences in the detention center lending him a gravitas that few could match. Jack also remained in close contact with Ural and other former inmates, who had taken up various roles, some in reforming prison systems, others in advocacy for the rights of the incarcerated across the galaxy. Their network, informal yet robust, was a testament to the bonds forged in the crucible of shared hardship. One day, while docked at a space station on the edge of a developing system, Jack received a transmission from an unknown source. It was encrypted in a cipher similar to those he had uncovered in the nebula. Intrigued, he decoded the message, revealing a map to another part of the galaxy, with coordinates marked in an ancient script. The signature, while mysterious, carried a hint of the same energy patterns he had studied in the nebula. With the universe still full of secrets to uncover and justice to uphold, Jack felt the familiar thrill of the chase. He set his course for the new coordinates, ready for whatever adventures awaited. His journey continued, driven by the dual stars of exploration and justice, shining brightly as beacons in his ever-expanding horizon. This new chapter was not just another voyage into the unknown, but a continuation of his commitment to safeguarding and exploring the cosmos, ensuring that the scales of justice were balanced even in the vast, often lawless expanse of space. His story, marked by courage, wisdom, and an unwavering sense of right, was far from over. It was evolving, just like the universe he so loved to explore.